Hello, this is Karni Zor, and today I want to explain about the very unique astrological situation we have these days. As you know, we're in very unique astrological and historical times. Actually, the whole beginning of 2020, the birth chart of 2020 really showed us that we're heading towards a shift in history. We are in the middle of the alignment between Pluto, the planet of huge changes, and Saturn, which is the planet of establishment and the order that we know. So we are in a process of huge change in everything that we thought that is regular and constant. This change occurs every 36 years when these two planets align, and it already marked the beginning of World War I at 1914, invention of the internet 1983, and many more events. So it's really worthwhile Googling these years in 1914, 1948, 1983, and here we are in another part of this sequence. Now, luckily, this time that marks huge shifts in history, this time was done mildly, and we might think, oh, coronavirus, quarantine, what is so mild about that? But yes, we're very lucky. We did not have a global war. We did not have huge natural disasters. And the coronavirus, as awful as it is, and of course there are people who are affected, dead, there is lots of fear, there is the reduce of economy due to the quarantine, but it is not the black plague. We need to see that. So we took the change, luckily, in the most safe and mild way possible. The thing that we do need to see that is very significant is that this time the change was a global change, and this is something that we never ever had since the recorded history, at least not something that we know of. And yet we need to understand that during the history, the Pluto and Saturn alignments were not marking a situation beginning and ending with the alignment. They were marking the beginning of a very slow shift in history, a very slow change. So yes, we were all very surprised, and life radically changed in the last 6, 8, 10 weeks. But we also need to remember that with Saturn, things take time, and Pluto really talks about radical changes. So we are just at the beginning of the historical shift and change, and we will see the results of this quarantine time actually continuing, because the alignment between Pluto and Saturn was the birth chart of a whole new decade. So we are in a time of change, and although we think the change is behind us now with things going back to regular, horrible words, yes, we do not want to go back. Nothing in nature goes back. We really only want to go forward, and regular was the history or the time preceding the coronavirus. Was it normal? Was it regular? No. So we do not want to go back to regular, but we do think that now that the quarantine is slowly getting down in most countries and businesses will reopen, we think that we might be after the big change. But actually this is not so. This is just the starting point of a very big change, a shift in history, in perception, in economies, in the situation of what people do, that will continue into the next decade. Now, I want to give you now a short explanation about the difference between tropical and sidereal astrology. If you're not very acquainted with astrology, just stay tuned. There is a very important message behind that about these times and what kind of change we're really heading towards. So most astrologers use the tropical astrology, which is traditional astrology, which is actually astrology on the paper, and it is not connected to the astronomical facts. I will not go into that in length here. You can read and see so much about that on my site. But for short, it's good to know that there is 25 degrees of difference between the classical astrology and the sidereal, which is the astronomical astrology. And this creates a huge difference both in the personal charts and in all forecasts. These two kind of charts, the tropical, which is the classical, and the sidereal, which is the astronomical chart, they both have their relevance, but they should be used in a different kind of way. The classical chart shows the automatic way things develop and evolve. The sidereal chart, on the other hand, is talking about the human evolution, and this is optional. This is what people can really connect to. We're talking about the possibility of people to develop, to connect to celestial frequencies for real, and it talks about the human option and the human evolution. It's to develop above the planetary, the usual level. Now, why did I give this whole explanation? Because not only Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter are aligned, meaning they're one after the other. You could actually draw a line between them these days in the sky. Actually, Saturn and Jupiter are also very beautifully visible to the eye during morning time. So not only they're aligned, but whilst being aligned, slowly in the last few months, planet Pluto and now also Saturn both moved into the sign of Capricorn. Now, for those dealing with astrology, you might say, what's going on here? We know that Pluto already moved into Capricorn during 2008. But no, it was the tropical chart in which Pluto moved into Capricorn during 2008. It wasn't really what was happening in the sky. If you use any app, you will see that now Pluto is in the very beginning of the Capricorn constellation, not the end of it, as the tropical chart will tell you. Why is it so important? So when planet Pluto moved into the tropical, the hypothetical, on the paper, the classical sign of Capricorn, there were huge economical changes in the world. If you remember, this was the time when bank crashed and the world's economy kind of wobbled and started to shrink. But this was just a first level of change, because the change done back then wasn't a kind of a change that goes from the inwards, from the human perception and outwards. This was an event, the banks crashed, and everybody tried to go back to normal after that, to continue, because no real change in perception happened during that. Now, according to the astronomical situation, what's really happening in the sky, or the sidereal chart, Pluto, together with Saturn, are actually entering the constellation of Capricorn only really these days. Now, using the sidereal, the astronomical chart, means that we're talking about human options and the human evolution. We're talking about real perceptions that can create real change. In a way, you can say that during 2008, we had a small taste of the change that should have happened in the world, but it was from the outside. And now, 2020 is the time where real change can be made, but this time done from the inside. The economical disaster of 2008 did not bring real change for people, because it was kind of something that fell on us. We were subdued to that, but it didn't happen from within. Together with that, what happened in 2008 did not have the worldwide global effect that we are meeting these days. Now, when Pluto is actually in the constellation, the astronomical constellation of Capricorn, a huge change can happen, but this time not as something that comes from outside, but something that can arise in people and be a major, major step in the human evolution. What am I talking about? So if we look at the astrological chart, we will see that the movement into Capricorn is not just an ordinary change. If we divide the chart into the seasons, we'll see that going into Capricorn actually talks about the entrance into a winter. The Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces parts of the chart are talking about the winter, not the physical actual winter outside, but the possibility to go into an internal state, to reduce things that are not necessary, to go back to the basics, to go back to the most important things, to shed whatever is not necessary, and really to continue for growth, this time from within. And the fact that Pluto and Saturn, that meet only every 36 years in the sky, do that as the two transit into Capricorn is quite unique. Saturn moves into a new sign only every 2.5 years. And it's about 30 years that have passed since Saturn was in the constellation of Capricorn. Capricorn is its natural place for Saturn, and it talks about stability, maturity, and the ability to be very aligned to the truth, also reducing things, also facing karmic issues, talks about many, many things. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. Pluto only moves into a new sign every 20 years or so, making it a very, very unique time because Pluto wasn't in Capricorn for the last 240 years, and this is a lot. Jupiter is going to join the two very, very soon as well, making it a triple alignment, very unique, very rare, of the planets, three major planets moving into Capricorn and actually marking the beginning of a winter. And a winter means that things are slowing down, retreating in. We're going to have a economical down. The main thing is that this time, this is accompanied by the human awareness and the human option. So with Pluto in Sagittarius for the last 20 years, we saw a big expansion and growth. People spread themselves, went all around the globe mentally, physically. There was huge growth and expansion. If we'll have a graph, yes, we'll see that things were overdone, and this means that things will now need to be lower, but not as a punishment, but really more as a new perception of people, of trying to see what is really, really important in our lives. Pluto, Saturn, and later on Jupiter moving into the sidereal Capricorn means that people are going to be more mature. The line that these planets are shifting through is the MC, which is the maturity line of the chart. So we're going to be more mature, we're going to be more aware, we're going to be more responsible, we're going to be more wise. This time, this is something that rises from the people. We're talking about inner change, a change in perception, and change in what we prefer to do. Now, this means that without someone telling us what to do, without any rules or punishment, people will really start to think differently, and we'll start to see what is important. Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter moving into Capricorn in the sidereal chart means that people will try to go now to natural and true things, working the land and the things that have longevity. They will be more interested in actual, practical, down to earth kind of works and jobs. It means that people will be serious, more serious with their free time. They would rather do actual things, practical things, than go outside, have a good time, have a drink, see a movie. Things are going to change, but really from the inside, from people asking themselves, what is important for me? From people wanting to shed things that are shallow, that are not necessary, that are not aligned to their true selves, to who they are, to their karmic lessons, and to the human potential, their own and the general one. So we're heading towards lots of change in the world, in the way people work, in the way the education will be, in the way people will plan their future, in the way people will choose to spend their free time. Changes in economy, changes in the kinds of shops. We will see so many changes, but this time it will come with a real desire from within to be more mature, more committed, more grown up, and more grounded in this world. A true choice of people and part of a necessary evolution in the natural cycle of things. And we're actually looking, as I said before, at the entrance of a very interesting new decade with real changes that are going to take place, and we can't even perceive these changes yet because everything we think we know about the future actually comes from our past, and the future is going to be so much different, so much interesting, so much more accurate to the human purpose than we can imagine. So welcome to the future. If you find this information useful, please take the time to register to my YouTube channel, and don't forget to click the bell button so you will be informed when new videos like that are out there. And please share this video with your friends so more people can be aligned to these kind of messages. Thank you.